Welcome to HFF DFW, where our focus is Yeshua, family, and discipleship. We hope you enjoyed today's message.
For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Emma. Today's teaching is going to be about kingdom over clout, or God goals over life goals. So how are we setting our goals? Do we care more about clout, or do we care more about the kingdom that God has for us? Some of y'all may not know what clout is. According to Google and Urban Dictionary, clout means influence or power, and having influence or being famous. But if you read the words of Jesus, he directs us to look past trying to gain power, influence, and fame in the world, and rather be an influence and example of him to the world. So ask yourselves, do we fall short and seek fame, power, or influence in the world? It's very important that we search our hearts and ask ourselves, what are we chasing? And most importantly, who we're doing it for. God knows our most inner thoughts, feelings, and what our hearts and soul desire. It is our jobs to search and allow God to refine those areas that we see aren't seeking him first. It's so easy to fall into a trap of people-pleasing, but we were never meant to please people. Let's look at Galatians 1:10. For am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ. God tells us in the last part of verse 10, if I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ. That's really scary to read because there's probably so many areas that myself seek approval of man rather than God. I remember when we first started coming into this walk, things were very different, and I was very embarrassed by it, and I was more concerned about what others would have thought of me rather than trying to connect with this new way of following the Word of God. So ask yourselves, if there's any areas you chase man's approval over God's.
It's so easy to get caught up chasing clout over the approval of people. That pulls us away from being true servants of Christ. Like for the past few weeks, how we've been discussing the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus was showing us a different way to live because we belong to a different kingdom. A kingdom that doesn't run after temporary things like status, power, influence. Instead, Jesus reminds us of what truly matters in Matthew 6:19 through 21. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, that's where your heart will be also. So my question is, what are you chasing? Because whatever you're chasing, that's where your heart is. It's not that life goals are bad. Wanting to graduate, succeed, have a good job, get married, all those things are good. But if God is not at the center of them, we're building a castle that crumbles instead of a kingdom that lasts. Some of us are so tired because we're running after things that don't even satisfy. Jesus is saying, I have something better. Don't settle for treasure that rusts. So ask yourself honestly, is Jesus at the center of my goals, or am I chasing things the world says are important, hoping they'll fill me? And here's the thing. It's not always about chasing worldly success. Sometimes even in our faith, we can find ourselves chasing the wrong things. Maybe you're not after money, followers, or fame, but instead you're like the Pharisees, caught up in religious clout. We call it being a Torah terrorist. So focus on the law and proving yourself holier than thou that you miss the point of what Jesus asked us to do. Everything in love. If you're walking around condemning people, measuring their walk by your standards, or puffing yourself up with how much you know, then that's not building God's kingdom, it's splitting it. Jesus didn't call us to know the truth, he called us to live it out with love and grace. So when you think about what you're chasing, it's not just the obvious things. Ask yourself if you're chasing control or spiritual pride instead of kingdom character. Let God show you where your treasure really is. But Jesus doesn't just leave us guessing, he actually gives us the answer. Let's look at Matthew 6:33. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Jesus never says your needs, dreams, or desires don't matter. He just says, put me first. And when you do, everything else falls into place. Not always how we expect, but better. In ways that give peace, purpose, and joy that don't depend on others' validation or circumstances. So instead of worrying about how to make everything happen, Jesus invites us to seek him to make God's goals our focus.
Seeking God first is a choice. And when we choose to seek God first, it actually means sacrificing everything. If God asked us to drop everything and turn away from all the things that we have, would we be able to? And that's a very extreme example, but I wouldn't put it past God. Jesus tells his disciples to deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow him. Whoever saves their earthly life loses it. But if we find life through Jesus, for his sake, we will find it. Let's look at Matthew 16:24-28. Jesus says, "For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul?" We seek money, pleasure, we set dreams and goals, but not everything we seek or set for ourselves aligns with what God's will is for us. Jesus actually previously spoke about this before in chapter 10, and I think it takes it into an even deeper perspective. Matthew 10:37-39 says, "Whoever loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever loves their sons or daughters more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it." A common saying is always put family first. As a daughter, I take what my parents say to heart, I trust their advice, and I trust that they always have what's best for me. However, sometimes what even my own family thinks is best for me might not align with what God wants for me. What areas are you sacrificing so that you can find your purpose in what he created you for? We have to realize and understand that everything, every reward, every cent in our pocket on earth is nothing compared to what God has for us. But we can only know what he has for us if we are willing to pick up our cross and seek him first.
I love what Emma said about carrying your cross and choosing Jesus over everything else, even the things and people we hold closest. That kind of sacrifice isn't just about actions, it's about the heart behind them. And that's what 1 Samuel 16:7 reminds us of. While the world is caught up in appearances, God is searching much deeper. He's looking at our hearts. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. This verse hits personal for me. When I was younger, I remember feeling different because of the things God was asking me to do. My mom introduced Torah into our lives, things like not eating pork or keeping the feast. And I'll be honest, it felt awkward. At school lunches, I was the one picking pepperoni off my pizza or missing class to go camping. And I used to care so much about what other people would think. When they asked me why, I would shy away from the truth and just say it was a boring camping event or I didn't like pork, which wasn't the truth at all. But God wasn't looking at my school attendance, my perfect school attendance, by the way, or if I blended in. He was looking at my heart, and even though at the time I didn't know why, he still saw I obeyed, and he still is. So maybe you're feeling like you're behind, not seen, or not enough because you're not measuring up to what the world says is a success. But God is saying, I see you, I see your heart, and that matters more than how cool you look or what college you get into or how much money you have. Because if money or status was what determined your worth in the kingdom, then most of the people we looked up to in faith wouldn't be in the positions they are. Actually, I've come to realize that the people who struggle the most financially often have the strongest faith. Not just in a, I'm going to swipe my card at Chick-fil-A and hopefully it goes through, but in a daily dependence on God that shows us what really matters. It's almost like God uses real-life examples to show us that the things the world chases, money, fame, and status, don't matter to him. And because they don't matter to him, they shouldn't matter to us when it comes to measuring our worth or our walk with him. Those things don't stunt your faith. If anything, they reveal it. So as the worship team comes up, I want to give you a moment to really reflect, to look within yourself and ask, what goals am I chasing that I haven't let God take control of? If we're being real, I'm almost certain that while this message was being shared, certain things came to mind, things you maybe try to push away. There's a reason they came up. Maybe it's the way you act around certain people just to fit in. Maybe it's those habits you keep going back to that you just hope God looks away. Or maybe you're walking down a path you chose, just hoping God blesses it, even though you never asked him in the first place if it was his plan. And I get it. The last one, that's me. I've been there, trying to do it my way and hoping God just blesses it along the way. But I'm learning that real surrender isn't just saying, God, bless what I'm doing. It's saying, God, take over, lead me, change what needs to be changed. I promise you, when you choose to fully surrender and let God take control, he will always give you what you need and more. He's a good father, and he knows exactly what you need, even before you ask. So right now, I want you to think about those things that came to mind. Maybe it's time to stop pushing them away and start laying them at his feet. Are you ready to start building or stop building your own castle and start building his kingdom?